Ella, thank you so much for doing this. I'm incredibly excited and grateful to be stuffing my face with chocolate pre.
I do bring the goods.
What is it? Pre 11 a.m.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for doing this. I saw Fatso at one of the trade shows.
Was it lunch?
Last April. It wasn't lunch. No, it must have been lunch.
Yeah. So it was actually 18 months ago, when that was when we first launched.
Was that 18 months? Well, you been lunch twice then?
No, we just did it that once, and that was our, hello, we're here.
Was that 18 months ago?
Well, September 22.
Is there another one in the Excel? Is there another trade? Did you do another trade show? It may have been lunch, but I just feel like that could have been so fucking long ago.
It was that long ago. I mean, you might have seen us. We haven't exhibited at another trade show since, but we do lurk around them.
Anyway, so
you'll see Hannah with her bars flashing them.
So my friend Lou, who was my boss at Manning Life, was like, "Oh my god, you've got to go and check this brand out called Fatso." And I was like, so as soon as I heard the name Fatso chocolate, I was like, because I think one of my things is people being bold and courageous and standing for something. Mm-hmm. I interviewed Seth Godin 2 weeks ago, and he was saying everyone creates something for everyone, mm-hmm. and actually it takes balls and guts and courage to say, right, we're going to take a step back, and this is what we stand for. This is who we're for. We're not for you. And by doing that and telling great stories, which I think we're going to come all onto the gorgeous packaging and the names. Mm. Then that idea begins to spread, and obviously it is because I wanted to. As soon as I saw the name and the packaging, I was like, I need to speak to you on the podcast. So there's so much to talk about today, but I think what I want to start with is you're sat in front of me. You're pregnant. You're the first person that sat in front of me that's pregnant.
Oh, okay, we're a debut.
And I'd love to know what it's like running a challenger brand whilst being pregnant. It's like, because I know that comes with a myriad of different challenges.
Sure does. I mean, I always, it's difficult because I suppose when you're employed, and obviously I've not been pregnant as a employee in another company before.
This is your first bubba.
This is our first, yeah. First baby. And obviously the business can't stop. And I always say, and the team around me are so wonderful. And they're like, Ella, it's okay. You've got to take time for yourself. You're growing a human. It's a big deal. And I think actually as women in society, you don't realise that how big a deal it is growing a human and how the toll it takes on your body. And I'm quite in tune with my body. I kind of, I exercise a lot and I nourish it in the right ways with good chocolate predominantly. It's this you're sharing your body. And but I think society is and women wanting to have it all and have careers and all that sort of stuff. It's you don't really give yourself the time to go, I need to change a bit of pace here in order to allow my body to do the thing that is most natural to it. But without but we don't allow ourselves that time because it's like, but I've still got to do all these other things. So it's been tough because to be honest, so when my team are saying to me, slow down, it's okay, I'm like, well, this is my other baby, I say that this is my first, but actually it's my second, because Fatso is my genuine, I know it's a cliche, but it is my absolute pride and joy.
Everyone says that, I think Josh from Momo Kombucha said we've got three kids, two are humans, the third's Momo Kombucha, something like that.
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting, as I say, like we're just very much going with the flow today. But I think when your head is wanting to move at the pace of Challenger brand, but your body is, maternally trying to slow down, I think that can cause a lot of friction. I know that loads of women who work for Challenger brands are going to go through that period of time where they want to go and have a kid, but then they've still got that high octane fucking moving at the speed of thunder or lightning, I should say. How are you coming to terms with those two kind of opposing forces?
Well, probably not really coming to terms with it, just kind of going to take it as it comes. I think I'm not, for us, and this is very personal, but for me, and people might be screaming down the podcast now, you're saying, you say this now, but for me, a baby is a wonderful thing, but I don't want to, my life isn't, I don't want, and my partner's the same, we don't want to change our whole lives to fit around the baby. You know, for us, it's an addition to our family, and it won't stop us being the people and the individuals that we are pre-baby. I'm sure it will change as an individual. We'll be parents. It's very different. The anxieties will be added to and all of that stuff. But I have no desire to change my ambitions and the collective ambitions we have here at Fatso because I've had a baby, you know? And if I have to bring the baby into management meetings and everyone else is just going to have to accept that I might just have to duck out for a breastfeed if I do breastfeed or anything like, you know, or soothe the baby, then that's how we'll work it, you know, we'll make it work. And that is the beauty of running your own business, is that you can kind of make the rules. And I think it was, you know, Renee from Planet Organic who you had on the podcast.
She's amazing, yeah.
She's amazing, and she was talking about how when she had her first, she would literally be in boardrooms with a bunch of men, breastfeeding.
With the kid, yeah.
And I was pregnant when I listened to that. I only just found out, and I think I was in bed because I was so sick, because I've had quite a very morning sickness heavy pregnancy. And I was just like, yes, you know, this can be done. And my mum did it. You know, she was a single mum. She was a lawyer at the time. She's not anymore. She's now doing lots of other things and running her own businesses and whatever. But she was working for a law firm. She was telling me the other night, actually, she was working on cases till like 11, 12 at night, pregnant. And I was thinking, my God, you know, I don't have to do that. You know, I'm not doing that. But, you know, when it's in your blood to really want to achieve something, and when you're really passionate about what it is that your ambition and passionate about the purpose of whatever you're doing, it doesn't have to be products, brands, whatever. I think that drive is really powerful, and I think it can be the thing that gives you the adrenaline and the support and the gives your body the ability to actually do that and to do both. I mean, maybe ask me again in 6 months' time. So how I'm coming to terms with it, I think also you have to be open to anything. You know, I'm very aware that I might make a plan in my mind, but it could turn out very differently. Lots of things can happen.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Honestly, means the absolute world to me. I'd be so grateful for a small favour, please. It is so hard growing a YouTube channel. It is so bloody hard. If you please enjoy these videos, just click the subscribe button. More subscribers equals bigger guests equals better conversations, and hopefully you can learn more as you build your food and drink brand. Thank you so much.
I suppose I was not even, as I said, this is all just coming up as we're going, but you know, I'm obsessed with this slow productivity thing. So it's a book by Cal Newport, and he basically goes through. So Cal Newport's the guy who did deep work. You know, deep work, which is basically, you know, you don't have social media, you just have your coffee, and you 2-3 hours in the morning, you just blitz it out, and you're in this kind of deep flow state of bliss. I get there every morning with coffee, techno, and just fucking writing. I get into that state. So I'm a big fan of his, and it's about, you know, doing maybe 3 hours a day deep work versus 9-10 hours shallow work. But his other thing is this idea of slow productivity, which is really focusing on. There's a massive difference between efficiency and effectiveness. 100%. So efficiency is just doing something, is how you do something really, really quickly and well. Effectiveness is actually taking a step back and being like, what do I need to do to move forward? And I think a lot of people don't, and I'm the worst at this, don't step back and actually ask that question. So as I was saying to you earlier, is how before I was doing podcasts, I was just like, on to the next one. As soon as I'm finishing, fucking like getting WhatsApp up, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing? It's forced me to slow down. So what I'm trying to get to is, how do you have to balance? I'm asking this selfishly. So let's not smash all that fucking chocolate. I'm not going to be pregnant, right? But you never know. But as in, like, if your body is forcing you to slow down, but still have that kind of hyper ambition of the founder. And I suppose I'm asking it selfishly, is like, how do I still have my massive ambition, which isn't going to be squelched, but how do I actually slow down? So after this is like, go on a walk. And I think what you're saying there, you've said some really interesting points, is being open and actually going with things. And that's what Renee says. I think Renee says it the best. She says, you can either hold onto the roller coaster like this, like stealth fucking shitting yourself.
You can put your arms in the air.
Or you can put your hands on the air. And I think that's the way, that is an interesting way to do it. When you say your ambitions, what is your ambition with this? Like, we talked about kind of the slowing down and being open, but what's the other end of the spectrum? What's the goal?
We want to build a global brand that, has been built on the principles that chocolate is inherently designed to be fun and playful and delicious and nothing more, nothing less. But to do so with absolute integrity and make sure that we never falter or compromise on any of the ethics or efforts that we could be making to make it better, both in taste and quality, but also from the people that sit behind it and the people at every step of that supply chain. It's not at the detriment of them. But I think you said it in a podcast I listened to. It's like, and so many brands forget this. Like, the product is king. I mean, you can't.
We need to try this because So I just think the names of King Ransom. We're going to go explore all. I mean, I'm going to get probably far too excited over the packaging. Nan's Stash, fucking sick. Morning Glory. I'm actually pretty solid. Home Run. So this was interesting. I asked the founder of Innocent yesterday, Adam, I asked that question, what's one truth you believe that most people would disagree with you on? I asked that to him. And he weirdly said, is Innocent, everyone believes Innocent. We're known for the packaging and the fun and the playfulness. But if you boil it really down, and this really took me by surprise, it was like, we relentlessly focused on making the best product. Because everyone knows us for, the vans wrapped in grass or whatever, AstroTurf. Everyone knows us for the little sock on the thing, the playful tone of voice. It was all product, and I think you're so right. So let's jump in. I would love to try the...
Do you want to have some Morning Glory, given it's breakfast time?
Yeah.
Although I say this, I haven't quite remembered that... I think that one of those pieces.
This is Morning Glory, yeah?
Yeah.
We'll take out the
chewing.
The chewing into the microphone.
That's authentic. That's kind of the whole point.
Okay, so...
Get the orange, get the marmalade.
Cornflake toast and marmalade. I mean, tell me about the process of like creating that. That's what I'm saying. I've never heard. So the flavours you've got are salted pretzel, whole almond, honeycomb, cornflake toast and marmalade, peanut toffee digestive biscuit. That sounds so fucking banging. Which one's that?
That's
That sounds so...
I think that one. Go for that one. I think it's that one.
You've got like a sixth sense for chocolate.
Yeah. So that's a different kind of chocolate. So the way so the premise was obviously dark chocolate is getting left behind. It's a thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's one of the purest types of chocolate. But the quality was really hard to find. Like good quality dark chocolate was really tough to find. And also it took itself so fucking seriously. It was like, chef's hat with whisks, very boring, lots of black packaging with gold flecks. And it kind of just basically made you think of, that's for an old person. Yeah, go for it.
Which one's that?
Is that home run? That might be home run. Or is that home run?
Okay, we'll find out.
Find out.
Yeah.
Mint.
No, that's a marmalade one again. That's fucking delicious. Yeah, sorry, go on.
So it was like, well, all the attention's been on milk for, a century, more than. And our palates have all become very accustomed basically to almost diluted chocolate. That's kind of how I see milk, especially now. If you go and look at how much cacao content is in a bar of milk chocolate or, a kind of a big FMCG bar of milk chocolate, you'd be very surprised at how little chocolate you're actually eating, which is changing our palates, which is kind of devastating because you're taking out all of the natural endorphins that cacao and cocoa creates for you, and you eat it. But anyway, milk chocolate was having all this fun, and they were being really brave and innovative and playful and quite, whatever. People just would do anything with milk chocolate. And I genuinely believe it's because it was like, well, it's higher in sugar, so it can take it. But no one was like, well, have we ever tried to do that with dark chocolate? Have we ever stress test, can dark chocolate take some like fun, exciting flavours? So we knew it had to be about the added extra flavour stuff. And a lot of that came also from talking about how when we were eating dark chocolate, it was only ever really as an enhancer on ice cream. Adding extra nuts and granola and whatever to your ice cream with dark chocolate. But you'd never choose to pick up a bar of dark chocolate because it was just so boring and underwhelming.
Worthy, isn't it?
And it felt a little bit healthy. Everyone was telling, dark chocolate's the healthy choice. It's like, if I'm having chocolate, I ain't going in there for the healthy choice. I'm going in there because I want some chocolate. I'm not going to do it, every day, although turns out when you do run a dark chocolate business, you do eat chocolate every day. So we knew we wanted fun flavours, and we knew we wanted to tell stories, and we wanted it to be kind of cheeky and witty and adult. We didn't want it to be juvenile.
So when you say juvenile?
Like, we didn't want it to be kiddie. We didn't want it to be, we knew it would be a product for grown-ups, know. But just because you're a grown-up doesn't mean you have to be serious and boring. So the flavours so the Morning Glory is actually the first flavour we came up with, because we were like, what if you had breakfast in a bar? Most important meal of the day. And I think from memory, Morning Glory was our first, we had the name before we had the flavour, because we were like, Morning Glory, come on, like, it is what it is, right? It says it all. It's definitely adult and it's playful. And then it's like, well, what do you have for breakfast, and what kind of goes in chocolate? Well, orange chocolate is obviously something, that flavour of orange and chocolate is really popular and really yummy. How do we get the crunch in? Well, side of toast and some cornflakes, or cornflakes, toast and orange juice or whatever. So that's where that one came from.
And it tastes, I'm just looking at the full array of them. Morning Glory, Home Run, Nan's Stash, King's Ransom. But then the flavours are just so... As I said, as soon as I saw them, I was like, shit, this is really exciting me and kind of unleashing my curiosity.
Yeah.
So talk me through the iterations of actually creating the products. We've said product is everything. That tastes delicious. How many rounds are you going through to create these 4 flavours?
Well, we actually, when we started, I think we had about 8 flavours that we tried.
Oh, what were the other 4?
I don't remember them all because some of them were so not right. We did have one. Well, I don't know if I should say because some of them might still rear their heads. There is a very intense. I won't tell you all the flavors, but there is a very intense coffee flavor that is absolutely in plan, but we just haven't found the right coffee partner. Anyone listening? They want to. A coffee with some other things, which is a very rich, very dark, beautiful flavour. But won't be for everyone. It kind of gives you like a crazy high. You can't really focus. That would not be good for your slow productivity kind of days.
It's hilarious because I'm a coffee fiend at the same time.
Yeah.
So I'm like talking about slow productivity whilst I'm probably going to smash through this whole thing right now.
Yeah. That's good. It's Monmouth. That's nice.
Oh, lovely.
But the other thing that was really important is to make sure that the chocolate, like the cacao, the type of chocolate that we were sourcing from Lucca, and the way that had been blended matched the flavours. So say we were like, we want to do a kind of baseball, American sports style snack flavour, pretzels, almonds, honeycomb, beautiful, sounds amazing. That's this one. I think that's this one.
Sick. Yeah.
And did you get an end piece there? Did you? Yeah. And salted pretzel, almond, honeycomb. But then it was like, well, what's the best chocolate to match that? Is it a 60% Macondo, which is actually where we landed, or is it a 70, which has kind of got refined sugar, but in the blend? Is it a 70% Palenque, which has got unrefined sugar in it, so it's a bit richer, and a bit more intense? But because of the honeycomb, does that go better? There's like an 80%. So we tried every flavour idea we had. We tried in maybe 4 or 5 or 6 different types of chocolate, all from Lucca, our partners that we'd chosen, and just tasted everything. And like just did rooms and chopping boards. And it was a lot. And we just had to keep coming back to it because obviously, as you can imagine, everything sort of starts to blend. But it's a little bit like, I guess, wine in a way. You've got to, it's not just...
Yeah, it's a constant iteration process. Yeah. So how long's the brand been going since?
Since that September 2022.
Yeah. So then, what were the other names on the drawing board that weren't Fatso, and how did you get to Fatso? If you can remember.
Well, I don't know if I can remember the other names, but I can remember why Fatso came out, and to be honest, it was a very quick decision. So when we talked about when we sort of created the brand, knowing that it was going to be about big chunky bars with big fun flavors, with a lot of character, we had like a concept we talked a lot about extra with everything and more matters, which is kind of a bit of a strapline that we use. That it wasn't about being restrained and serious and withholding. It was about going all in. Life is full of hold back, modesty, try and be less. But, less is more. We kind of all live by this sort of notion these days. And in many aspects, it's totally agree. But when it comes to chocolate, like, let's go all in. You don't have to have it all the time. But when you do, don't be like, oh, I'll just have this tiny little square.
Oh, God, I don't know. I've got a mate who's... he's a big boozer. Like, it's crazy. Like, he used to live with him in Fulham, and he's like my best mate. But we'll go out on the weekend and get absolutely sloshed. Yeah. But then I don't know how he does it. And he used to warm me up. He'd be so disciplined with his diet, and I'd be like,
what's the point?
yeah. I'd be like, mate, like, you're hungover. You're not going to like get a McDonald's. And he'd be like, having one square. I mean, it's very blasphemous, that Lindt fucking chocolate. Yeah. And I'd be like, there before Fatso. This is like stuffing my face with Cadbury's. You know, I just love giant buttons out the fridge.
Yeah.
Chocolate out the fridge to me is just insane. Like he I don't know how he like drinks and smokes and everything. He ran a marathon in 3:05. We were sat there being like, and he'd been on a stag do the weekend before. We call him Steamo because he's like a steam train, but
he's like on a different level.
But yeah, he's the case in point of just having that one like paltry square of chocolate. That's just like that's not the way. I think what you're saying there of more matters is. More matters of the right thing in life is a really good mantra. So like doing more of the things that like give you energy versus take energy. How do you apply the more matters to your life?
I have just discovered a secret weapon. Please don't tell anyone. This secret weapon helps you get listed, stay listed, and most importantly, grow. This secret weapon is being used by absolutely banging brands like Bold Bean Co., Perfect Head, Neat, Trip, and Cheeky Panda. No wonder they're absolutely smashing it. But look, are you ready to get your mitts on this secret weapon and absolutely smash it too? I am so thrilled to announce our brand new podcast partner, North Star. What is North Star, I hear you thinking? North Star is a monthly subscription to an online platform giving you access to category data, category insights, anytime, any place, anywhere. It's basically the Netflix for challenger brands. It levels the playing field. Why do you need category data? Well, the first thing is making your pitch speak the buyers and retailers language is so important. It's going to help you unlock more listings, unlock deeper distribution with existing clients, back the right NPD, and actually understand how your competition is performing. But the even better news, are you ready to rock and roll at your next range review? You no longer need to hire a full-time category manager. Instead, just parachute in North Star when your next Waitrose, Sainsbury's or Tesco range reviews coming up. They're your outsourced in-house partner. Save money. Their team will come in. They'll help you prep, plan and smash your next range review. I'm so excited to be partnering with North Star. Check them out in the episode description below. Delighted to announce the extension of our partnership with the wonderful Billy and Paul from Mackenzie Jones, but even more exciting, they have just launched a brand new brand as part of Mackenzie Jones called MKJ Ignite. MKJ Ignite is a recruitment firm which specialises full shebang focus entirely on challenge brand space. They work with some incredible brands, Lucky Saint, Goodrays, Purdy and Fig, Hunt and Gather and Real Superfoods. They can support with your hiring needs across all levels, top to bottom, junior entry-level jobs, all the way through up to MD and CEO level. So if you're looking for a field sales stomper, a sales wizard, an ops guru, a supply chain sensei, you name it, MKJ Ignite can help you out. And look, if you're looking to wet your whistle, ignite your curiosity, then check out the poddy we recorded with them back in July. Laden with wisdom, all about like do's and don'ts of hiring and like how to create the perfect job description. You will love it.
So More Matters actually is, and More Matters is a really lovely, we love saying it because it's not just about
when you're at the pub.
Yeah, exactly. More Matters, ladies, like, come on. I say ladies because we're a group of ladies. But you know, it expands, actually you can apply it to anything because you can apply, it's like more ethics, which is what we apply, like more love, more care, more time, more anything, you know. Actually we talk about all less is more, but in reality we actually all want more of the things that we love and enjoy, and we should take the time to spend more time doing that. So More Matters for us is like making something, you know, less is more feels a bit...
Doing more of the things that matter is basically what it is.
Doing more of the things that matter, exactly. Yeah. Including eating chocolate and including the size of the chocolate that you're eating or the size of the bar that you pick up. And Fatso basically was this... So we had like this More Matters and also this principle of extra with everything. You know, not in an extra way, but in like... literally extra stuff.
Wait, what do you mean? What do you mean by that? Sorry.
Like extra ingredients, like more. It's the same principle as more matters, but it was a concept of extra meaning more, basically. An extra side of gravy, an extra potato with your roast, whatever that might be.
I love extras. Yeah. I don't know what it is. The sides at restaurants.
Yeah.
There's such the unsung hero.
Yeah. Any pub that doesn't do extra gravy or tries to charge for extra gravy, I'm like, you are.
Yeah. I've sometimes thought about, like, I was thinking about this the other day of creating a restaurant called Sides.
Yeah, great.
Because sometimes the sides are actually better than the main event. Like, I'm trying to think, like, with the roast Yorkshire pudding, the sauce, pigs and blankets,
stuffing, roasties. What else am I really partial to in a roast? I mean, I love a roast.
I'm not a fan of cauliflower cheese.
I was just going to say that. Really cheesy cauliflower cheese.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't actually like cheese that much.
Oh, well, that's not your audience.
But yeah, but I think there is something in like the sides. I'm just trying to think. Like sometimes starters and sides.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you want like
starter.
I love starters as much as I love the main course of things. So the extras.
So it was like extra, more, and then Fatso was just. And I remember we'd like had a long list, and we'd all kind of scribbled down different words that fell out of this concept of extra with everything or more matters. And as soon as we saw Fatso, it was like done. All of us, we were like, that's it. And we kind of. That's what I don't. It was so. We were so single-minded because we were like, it's brave. It's a true, we wanted this to be a challenger brand. We wanted this to be bold. So, and if you're going out and you're saying, we're going to make a super chunky, provocative challenger brand to what else is out there, you can't do that by heart. You can't go half-hearted on that. It would have just flopped. And I think a lot of brands do that. They kind of get nervous at the last minute or...
trying to be all things to all people.
And we were like, we are going to get pushback. And I remember, weirdly, we've had less pushback than I thought.
Well, that's what I was going to say is with all the fat shaming, I'm not good. This not turn into some sort of political podcast because I'm not qualified to say any of those things. But with all this fat shaming stuff going on, I think ultimately it's a net positive. Like these plus size models, all that stuff, I think is really positive. Net, but then I think you'll as you see, you'll get some pushback, being like, "Oh my god, you can't call it Fatso." Like the world we live in today, you can't call it fucking Fatso. Do you know? Like, so what pushback did you get?
Well, but what I find so sad about that is like, well, actually, we're not fat shaming. This isn't about gluttony. This is about more of what matters. More of what matters, and almost flipping the fact that we've created such a negative connotation around the word fatso. That's something that we've created. That's been created in the playground, right? Or whatever. But actually, what if you flip it on its head and it becomes a positive thing? It's like to be a fatso means you're living life to your absolute fullest. Live life more fatso. Great.
But I also think there's that, that moment after a roast, or other meals are available. It can be a curry, it could be a Chinese. But when you you're just like, you've been a bit of a, I know it's not about gluttony, but there's that moment of just like kind of just kicking back on the thing, having a glass of wine.
To unbutton
some either shirt or
happens a lot to me at the moment.
Yeah, or it's either happened for you. That's happened to me before. Happened to me yesterday. She came out of Billy's office. I don't know what happened. Like my buttons came undone anyway. Not outside Richmond Station, not like that. Yeah. They've got a Popeye's chicken by Richmond Station. I've really wanted to try that for ages, but I need to wait till at least Thursday. But anyway, there's something about that moment, and I always believe like a brand. They talk about occasions of like what's the occasion. Quite literally in terms of the supermarkets and the grocery, like what occasion are you? They talk about that. Yeah. But I also think it works on a brand level as like what is the moment you want to. Like, there's a gazillion moments in life. Mm-hmm. What do you want to hang your hat on as a brand? And I think there's there's so much you can kind of tease out with this extras and this fatso of doing more of the things that matter. I think there's what we were talking about, the slow productivity is basic that. Do things that give you energy.
Yeah.
And where you can really create quality.
Yeah.
And fuck everything else off.
Yeah. And where you feel you can finish the day and be like, yeah, I had a really great day, you know, and I didn't dwell on the things that don't ultimately matter. Everyone has to sort of sense check themselves. I think sometimes go, you know, it's quite, it takes a lot of brain power to always be thinking, is this the right thing to be focusing on? Or is this, what value does this bring? Or what value does this thing bring to me or to my business or whatever? I think that's quite exhausting to always have that as your guiding principle. But if you do remember to check in with yourself, I suppose it comes more and more naturally, and you'll stop doing the things that don't matter. You'll have that.
So what's been the
Critical
kickback
lens.
on the...
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely went off piece.
Tangent, yeah.
I like, those are my favourite ones. Don't worry.
Well, the kickback is, you know, I remember one lady, in fact, what was quite interesting is I went into this sort of cafe deli who have lots of different lovely things, including quite a bit of chocolate, but they were selling like green and blacks, and I think maybe just green and blacks they had at the time. But then they had all these, it was like a small independent. So I was like, well, you know, it was kind of local to us as well. So I was thinking, oh, you know, nice local brands supporting nice local business kind of thing, or vice versa. So I'd gone in and I said, oh, we've just launched this brand, and, you know, I gave them the story. These were the people that were serving, and they were like, oh God, it looks amazing. Yeah, love it. Took it, tried it, and I went in a couple of days later and I said, what did you think? And they're like, oh, we loved it. We've given it to the owner. You know, we all tasted it and think it's fab. And then I said, okay, well, this is, you know, here's my number and my details. And I then sent a follow-up email. I didn't hear back. So I went in again and I was like, oh, is the owner here? Just to, I wanted to follow up on the chocolate. And they said, oh, yeah. Oh, we did give it to her. You can go and chat. She's in the back. So I went in and I said, oh, I'm just coming because, you know, I know that your team shared this and I just wanted to introduce myself, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, she just said, it's just so offensive. So offensive. And I tried to, and I tried to sort of then...
Was she slightly bigger?
Yes.
Okay.
Which I didn't know, obviously, at the time. I hadn't gone in. I wasn't sort of... So, you know, I wasn't like... She may have felt sort of targeted in some way, but I genuinely didn't know what she looked like. Anyway, it was what it was. She was.
I thought you were calling her
perfect.
Fatso, do you know what I mean?
And that's sort of what I explained, and I sort of said, you know, the story behind it isn't that, and, you know, she just couldn't get past it. She was like, well, I know that my customers will, you know, they won't like it. And I was thinking, I don't think it's the customers that won't like it, that this is a you thing. And I think that's the thing that's which I find quite frustrating about selling, is there's so much subjectivity that goes into decision making and buying, regardless of how big or small your business. I get it with a small business, especially as an owner, because I know like that they are an extension of you. You know, your small business is you in a business form. So I can understand if you fundamentally disagree with something, or you have a kind of visceral reaction against something that obviously isn't right for your store. But it really surprises me when you're targeting some of these bigger ones, you know, the bigger retailers and buyers that work within a bigger company, how little kind of customer consideration or consumer consideration goes into the decision-making process versus just their own feelings and opinions.
An agenda, really, isn't
and
it?
Agendas. And
I was I was saying, I wrote a thing that should be in my newsletter this week And I was basically saying, why can we not find the new Innocent? Guess how many Innocent stores... Sorry, not Innocent stores. Guess how many Waitrose stores Innocent started with?
Oh, don't know. Lot? I would have thought quite a lot.
10.
10.
They got 10 stores, were allowed to prove themselves in 10 Waitrose stores, and then went to 50. Whereas what I'm basically saying is, how the fuck are we going to find the next Innocent if we're putting small... Imagine they... I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but if they were to put this in 400 Sainsbury's stores, it's going to sink. It's not ready. It's not ready yet. It needs to go into. It needs to go into 15 stores. Build the brand slowly. Then you go up, and then you go up. And I just think it's crazy. Like kind of again, we're sidestepping into something different here, but I think it's crazy how these retailers are trying to find the next Innocent and be the person that found them first. But the ultimate way we're doing it is this roulette. We're like, right, we'll take 100 brands, 300 stores. Spin the wheel, see what happens, and then you just end up with founder's dream shattered. Consumer doesn't get to try the product because hasn't been on shelf or has gone out within 6 months. The poor buyers are stressed up to their heads because they've got from the pressure from the top is that we need to find the next brand, we need to be part of the this policy, this trend. The trends at the minute of this, gut health. You need to be, so it's like we're just hopping with trends, roulette wheel buying. And
but kind of behind the curve as well.
Behind the curve, yeah.
It's like that trend's already massive and probably on the way out.
Yeah.
Because there'll be the next thing. And that no one, these are like the pioneers of retail, or should be, and yet all they're doing is following. They're not actually setting any trends.
Also, it's not. This is not the buyer's fault at all. This is coming from the top. This is a much deeper kind of cultural... bigger
strategic...
Yeah, cultural macro factor. Who was I interviewing? I couldn't... I was doing
mackerel?
No, I was doing a podcast with someone quite scary when I was really nervous. And I kept saying mackerel instead of macros. I was going the mackerel factors, mate. I was like, you fucking told me.
You re-record that bit.
I may have kept it in. I was like, yes, the mackerel factors. I had it the other day. A starge is like when a chef goes to another restaurant. So basically, say you're trying to... We'll talk about René Zeppi in a sec, but a starge is when you say you're working at Peacham Nurseries, they'll send you to the laundry room. What's it called? French laundry. The laundry room. The French laundry in LA, and you'll learn for a week. But anyway, I was interviewing Jack Stein last week, Rick Stein's son, and I kept saying Sarge instead of Starge.
Starge. Oh.
I felt like Sarge. I was like, I'm on the fucking bill. Hello, Sarge. How you doing, officer?
The bill, I haven't had that one in a while.
Yeah.
Is that still on?
No, I don't think so. But yes, so I think the buyers thing is really interesting, and actually... that's why you're getting so many, not so many brands. I think this is I think this is just something that's happening. Is brands are trying to, they want the listing and the distribution so bad that they're creating products to almost like, instead of consumer product market fit, it's grocery market fit. Do you know what I mean? It's like this works for us because it gets us into the meal deal, or this works for us because it's... And I think there's a little bit of a disparity there.
Oh my God, I am so excited. It feels like Hungary is finally swimming in the big leagues. I can't believe this. It's absolutely mental. But delighted to announce that Big Fish, yes, Big Fish, are partner of the podcast. Perry's been on the podcast 3 times. Listeners absolutely love it. Some of our most downloaded and cherished episodes of all time. But Big Fish are behind literally so many brands in your cupboard, in your weekly shop. Charlie Bigham, Year Valley, Tyrrell's, Clipper Tea, Goo, Rana. I mean, mate, the list is longer than the River Nile. But they also share risk and invest in brands that they really believe are a force for good. They're brands that they believe are going to be the next big thing, like Howder, the snack that gives back. But even more exciting news, big fish want to speak to the next wave of small challenger food and drink brands that are destined for big things, the raconteurs, the movers, shakers, buccaneering visionaries. So look, if you want to speak to big fish and just have a chat, get your brand in front of them, then drop me a message. My mate Louis from Local Beer, Amazing Beer, was in their office, aka La Fish Bowl, last week, chatting to Perry, Freddie and the Big Fish crew. So drop me a message if you would like to speak to them. boiiisheeee, our beloved sponsor, are helping build the fastest growing challenger food and drink brands. Look, if you're a small brand just starting out and need your first indie stockist, your first 100 stockists to wholesale, boiiisheeee are the platform to categorically speed that up. But if you're a big brand wanting to get bigger, boiiisheeee are also insane. They make field sales marble smooth, silky slick. They're just epic. Ollie's been on this podcast twice actually. They saw a 29% uplift in sales when using boiiisheeee to check major malt listings availability. Insane. 29% uplift by downloading an app. Insane. Lucky Saint, my boy Aaron Duff, who's coming on this podcast in a couple of weeks, he uses it to manage a team of 30 people, and Lucky Saint have unlocked 500 draft listings by using boiiisheeee. Look, you've got to get involved with this stuff. It's absolutely insane, and it will categorically change your life. It's just the sickest platform. I use it all the time at Islands.
What are some of the other pushbacks you've had on this? Because I think also, the early days of selling, it's something I haven't really talked about much on the pod.
Yeah. It's all right. We consciously wanted, because so much for us, we didn't have the money to test this, or we didn't do any Ipsos testing or people like this. Ipsos testing. Oh, it's like it's a big research. Whenever the big FMCG brands are about to launch a new product or launch a rebrand, they'll test it in an Ipsos tracking. So it's big market research kind of stuff. So we didn't have any. We didn't have resources to properly test this. We had like our friends and our family, and instinctively going into like our local coffee shops and saying, "What do you think of this?" And would you, And that was all we had before we launched. It was a big risk. It was like, right, well, let's produce however many bars, the minimum we could, but without making it cost prohibitive, and let's just see. So it was really important to us that we spent time building relationships with the retailers that we were pitching to, and getting the feedback and understanding what their customers and their customers were saying. Whereas I think when you go through, or when you sort of put a huge focus on things like wholesalers, or even if we tried, which we didn't, but if you'd gone straight into trying to win a big grocery account, you're immediately disconnecting yourself from really how people are responding. So we just focused flat out on independence. And actually in the first year, we had won over over 150 independent stores that we'd won direct. Every single individual one, every order went out,
And how were you doing that? Because I think there's this hustle period that every brand goes through. Innocent, case in point. I know that I've talked about them a lot because I did the podcast yesterday. But Innocent, kind of, we did it at Money Life. Like you're on the road, knocking on doors.
Yeah.
Detail that period of time. There'll be people listening to this who may literally be on the road with a backpack full of juice or crisps or snacks, and they're about to walk into a deli. Like, what is, in your opinion, the art of a good indie sell-in? First question. Second question, like, how do you manage all that?
I think the art is in the story, but kind of not just going in and only talking about, just sort of going, this is my brand and please, look at it. It's actually like, who makes the decisions about what goes in, and making observations about what they're already stocking, and what's your customer like? Do you have more tourists, or do you have a regular customer base? I think it is that kind of classic, ask them the questions and build a rapport and a relationship to understand what they are, and then show them how your brand might fit their needs and why it would work. It's not just about scattergunning and saying, look at my amazing brand new brand, and it's all it's delicious, look, you can try it, and it's ethical, yes, you want to get those things in, but it's how you get those things in. And I think it's about taking time to really, and I suppose as you get bigger, you don't have necessarily that luxury of time always to spend that amount of time with the super small ones. But at the beginning, it doesn't matter, even if your order's like 100 quid, it doesn't, it's actually, well, I've got my bars in that shop. So I think it's, the art is in listening to what they want or what they're looking for and what their guests and their customers want, and then understanding how your brand then or your story fits theirs.
I also think just close this off is I did loads of that, and the easiest way to sell to any independent deli is you do basically need to de-risk it for them. And someone said to me once, is like a supermarket buyer, an independent buyer is thinking, do I spend this 60 quid on a case of Fatso, or do I take my daughter ice skating on the weekend? The opportunity cost is much greater for an independent store person versus like, a big supermarket, you're just to sell E5. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so what I think I can't remember who told me that, but I was like, oh shit. So what we need to do is just absolutely de-risk the hell out of it, because they've got finite shelf space. So you take your two best SKUs, your two best-selling SKUs, and just say, right, I'll give you these 3. Don't give them a full case, because a full case will create let's say you've got a case of 12. It's going to take ages to get through a case of 12. Well, not ages. If you give them I'll give you these 3.
I'll give you one mixed case.
One mixed case. Put them on the shelf. They're free. If they sell by Tuesday, let's do a listing. Yeah. And then also just say, I'll come in, and they will sell. So then straight away the person's thinking, oh fuck, that Fatso does sell. Then book in a sampling session so you can activate it. Like those two things will literally, I genuinely, and like, providing you're not a weirdo, like, well, you're not a weirdo, but like, providing you're not like going in and just being a bit like, what's the word? Like trying to sell it too hard.
Yeah, we're not in the business of car salesmen.
Exactly. Then I think you can get most indies over the line. And then how? So then you get them in, and then how do you get them moving?
I.e. the sell through to exactly that, sampling sessions. Obviously, talking to them about getting good, positioning in store, supporting with like if there's an occasion, we do bundles and things like that, so they can do gift packs and stuff like that. I mean, it totally depends on the store, really. Often it is about where you're positioned in store. We have found that when most of our indies, if they put us on the shelf when it's seen, it goes. And I appreciate that every brand wants to be seen, but something as provocative and quite visually impactful, it does the bars do a lot of hard work.
Oh god, yeah.
It's not difficult to.
Also, I think the packaging's just like, it looks like a book.
Well, exactly, it's different. It stands out. It's not the same.
Like, what was the?
Well, we just wanted it to be. We didn't want it to look like everything else. We wanted it to feel like a bit of an experience. We wanted it to be part of the eating, right? We wanted it to feel premium, but not stuffy and boring, which I think that we've achieved. So yeah, the packaging itself does a lot of hard work for us, and sampling sessions. I mean, when people taste it, we see so much. When we do sampling sessions, we always say to them, by the way, you might want to do a little order before we come, because
yeah, well, that's a really good, interesting point as well.
Yeah, and most of the time they do, because they're like, well, yeah, and you set it through for them. They often, or if they don't, you're for sure doing a reorder at the end of that sampling session. Because who doesn't want to taste bar of chocolate when they, a little bit of chocolate when they go in and.
Oh God, yeah.
So
I'd snaffle that up. Snaffle.
Yeah, exactly. What was your second question? You said, what's the art and how do you manage it? I mean, yeah, it's a lot of the time.
What's the stage of the business? Because there'll be a lot of people who are about to go on this journey who are listening to this. how do you manage all that? Because I know it can be a head fuck with if you're not with a wholesaler, just doing all the admin with the invoices, if you're going direct, like how did you get through that?
You just have to do it, right? And it's I mean, it is a lot of admin. What we try and do, because we've one of the things I was saying to you before is one of the things that we have sort of put a lot of our investment in to is people, so we've hired a salesperson, Hannah, who's, shit hot at what she does. She's worked in lots of startups, not in this category, but she's a real hustler. And, she's always got a bar. It doesn't matter whether it's the week or the weekend, doesn't matter where she's going or where she is. She's always got a bar to whip out and have a conversation with someone. And so there's that focus. And then we've also got, we've got some finance support, another Hannah, apparently we only hire Hannahs. And, she does all the admin and processing. So we've been really lucky, or that was it was a choice we made to allow us to really focus on the sales, to have, things like finance support to make sure that we're not also then having to do all of that in the back end and then just running out of time. Because also, as any business owner will also attest to listening to this, is that cash is king. So if you're not sending out those invoices or you're not getting those sales in, it dies.
Yeah.
One of the platforms that we found really good though for independents as well is Fair Marketplace.
No idea.
They're a marketplace for independent businesses, but quite a lot of lifestyle gifty companies that they've been amazing. And, you can do sort of decent 6-figure sales just through them. And it's independent shops, all who can discover brands like ours and buy direct. But I think they maybe pay a small subscription or something and they get free shipping, but the brand doesn't pay the shipping. Fair pays the shipping.
Oh, that's clever.
And they generate all the labels. So you literally just have to pack the order, sit the label on, and they collect it, and off it goes. And they have, they do 30-day payment terms for the brand, but 60-day payment terms for the retailer.
Yeah, that's smart.
And it's UK, US. So you can do US from here, and we don't pay for that. Canada, Australia. It's great.
Are there any other really lucrative unseen opportunities that you've stumbled across that could really help people? I'm trying to think. I mean, it's
the early days
ceases to exist now. When Farm Drop, we did a lot of volume through them early.
Yeah, I've worked with Farm Drop, not with Fatso, but another business.
Yeah.
Did.
Yeah. Any other interesting places you've got the products that you didn't? Are you in garden centres?
Yeah, we're in quite a few of the bigger Blue Diamond ones.
What is Blue Diamond?
They're like a premium garden centre chain, but they're not all branded Blue Diamond, but they're like a bigger.
Yeah.
So they've been good. But yeah, I mean, I think channel strategy is really interesting. And I think it's very easy to go independent retailer. Oh, I'm a food brand, delis, farm shops. And then I'll want to go to grocery and then that's it.
Well, I've talked about this a lot on the podcast, but I think every brand has a slipstream channel. So a slipstream is, Perry was telling me about this, it's like the surfing. You can find a thing that will pull you out. You can either swim against the waves like this to get your fucking board out there, or you can find the slipstream and it'll go and pull you straight up. And I think every brand, if you do enough testing, will find the slipstream. So, Seedlip, for selling for them, garden centres were kind of retrospectively it makes sense. It's like, well, obviously you're a nature brand, but selling alcohol-free booze in a garden centre, you're probably thinking, well, let's go for the bars first. Let's go to the boozers. Let's go to the pubs. Fucking garden centres, that's the slipstream channel. I'm trying to think of other examples. In Innocent, much further up the line, was Wilkinson's Giles Brooks just talked about this on the podcast. Wilkinson's, which now ceases to exist, and McDonald's. I mean, so Sea Lips, that Garden's Net with Sea Lips example of a Bubba brand.
Yeah.
Obviously innocent and like, well, selling juice, healthy juice in McDonald's, well, that's an oxymoron.
That was a big part of McDonald's strategy to...
Yeah, but I think so every brand, big, small, simply roasted crisps.
Yeah.
You look at food service or out of home, as people say, which I still think is my stupid name of the channel.
I just think of big billboards. Because I have a marketing background.
I'm just like, what if I get a sarnie and then take it back home?
Yeah, exactly. Am I not allowed to do that?
But their slipstream channel is like, well, look, so everyone's going into B&I, business and industry, I think it is, with the crisps. They found this weird little sub-niche channel, which is schools. Because schools want healthier crisps, fuck giving the kids Walkers, even though prawn cocktail crisps are the best crisps on planet Earth.
Yeah.
Just the OG. But there's a slipstream channel. So I think I'd love to kind of tease this out with you. Like, is there any...
We've got some...
Yeah, what are some of the channels you're playing in with this delicious brand?
Speaking of education... One of the things that we're seeing some really good traction is like universities.
What in the library shop?
I mean, if you think of a university campus, how many foodie type outlets that they've got, and if you think about when you're a student, how rubbish you were at actually saving. I mean, I didn't save it. I mean, I just.
Also, I was talking about this the other day. Is the when I was revising every single day, I'd go, I don't know if you remember them, they used to do Cadbury's buttons. Yeah, so they'd have normal button, white chocolate button, then have little mini Oreos.
Oh, delicious.
And they'd have these little, like their equivalent of a Smarties.
Yeah.
So I'd get those, 2 bags of those,
Great.
20 cigarettes and Diet Cokes, and just sit there and revise and eat them all day and smoke.
The day before the exam.
The day before the exam. But I think that's the slipstream channel. It's like...
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've got to do a fucking dissertation. Well, let me have some Fatso.
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting one. I think food service is also a space. So we've been talking to like a couple of bigger businesses. I think I'm very curious how it plays out with this whole back to the office thing in that more corporate office culture.
When you say back to the office.
Because like more of the big players are now saying, no, you've all got to come back in now, at least 3 days a week. They're sort of putting more guardrails around hybrid working. I think there's probably quite a lot of resistance coming from employees around that. But obviously if everyone starts doing it, then people aren't going to have a choice. Whether a bar of chocolate will compel, a free bar of chocolate in the snack drawer will compel, I don't know, but I like to think it might.
It's true. So the budgets, we had this with Islands with the hot chocolate because they suddenly all these kind of sites had more budget to spend on food because they're like, well, we can get people to the office if they've got a bang-in free lunch and free. So I think that's another example of a stitching channel. But again, pre-COVID, Islands couldn't get edgeways into these hot chocolate places, cafes, hot chocolate places. Imagine saying that. Is this a hot chocolate place? It's like a fucking 2-year-old. But
do a really good job.
It's called a cafe. Yeah, it's just a hot chocolate place.
Well, there's Canoops. That's a hot chocolate. They would call them.
Yeah, they would call. These places do exist, but yeah, and I think it's what we were saying right at the beginning when we were talking about the pregnancy thing is about being open. I think if you can be open as a founder to the movement, or literally within you here, but also the movement of how things are changing is interesting.
I think as well, it's almost playing in a space. We're in a saturated. We've gone into one of the most saturated categories you could possibly think of doing. Oh, sorry. Yeah. And if you're going into a saturated category, then you kind of need to find those slipstreams, as you call them, that are inherently less saturated. So, when we go, so farm shops and delis is an interesting one because you think, well, yeah, because it's food, it's food and it's more niche artisan food. That's kind of how you would. But actually, the place we see most, a huge amount of sell through are actually in things like butchers, bakers, gift shops, lifestyle shops, where actually they haven't got 3 or 4 or 5 other chocolate brands. They've just got 1 or 2, you being one of them. So you're giving then the consumer a lot less choice, because their primary reason is to go and buy a gift or to go and buy a shoulder of pork or whatever. But then it's just a basket add-on. So we see a lot more success in the less obvious places, which is why I think food service, unis, hotels, like we've got some really fab hotel listings. And hotels are more and more, as you were talking about, like increasing their budgets to create those added value moments. So rather than it just being about minibar, which is a very slow, minibars are a slow burner, because I don't think I've ever really bought anything from a minibar. Except maybe when I'm really drunk.
Yeah, when I'm drunk, I'll smash one of those. They always have those mini Toblerones.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll fucking nail one of them.
Fine. But then you'll wake up in the morning and be like, I just spent a tenner on that.
Yeah.
And I could have gone to that little newsagent over the road and bought the same thing for £1. But more and more hotels are now doing like, gifting things. Yeah. So like one hotel that is we've got that's just, I think it's definitely opening next week. It's going to the launch. There's this amazing new hotel in Oxford called The Store, and they are giving every guest that comes a big bar of Morning Glory.
Do you because there's a place called the Newt in Somerset, which is, I'm trying to get them on the pod actually, but what's the wheels into them, or are you just doing it direct?
Those ones, they're more indie ones, but even, to be honest, even like your bigger chains, your Hiltons and stuff, most of their buying is done within, because more hotel chains now, they're not doing that continuity, premium ones anyway. Hilton own quite a lot of hotels, but quite a lot of hotels you wouldn't know are owned by Hilton. They'll be like the kind of cool Shoreditchy ones and whatever. So that's all been direct so far. And we haven't yet come across a wholesaler that kind of exclusively works.
Hi guys, super quick one. So excited. Look, for years I've been badgering on about Hungry the podcast. You're probably bored to death. Thanks for putting up with me. But Hungry is also an agency, and we look after one amazing brand called Islands Chocolate. We've had a great time over the year. We've won listings at a load of wholesalers. We've won Milk and More. We've got our first grocery listing coming very soon, which is very sick. But what I'm thrilled to announce is Hungry is merging with HC Consulting. My boy Harry Clark and his wonderful team, he's an absolute G. They do brand strategy, new business and account management. But why I really love working with Harry, and why we've got on so well over the last couple of months, is Harry was actually the founder of the boozy Hastily brand Pops. So he's been in the trenches, he's grafted his face off, he's had the sleepless nights, he's had the turmoil, he's had the triumph, he knows what it is to be a founder, he is a founder. And he's got a proven track record in grocery and out of home. Holy moly dips, the gut stuff, Savile drinks, Remio gelato. So if you're a brand and you're stuck, you're looking for like new business help, you're looking to scale, drop us a message. We'd love to chat. Thank you so much. Back to the old episode.
Yeah, no, I think the macro lesson, the mackerel lesson.
The mackerel lesson is oily fish is good for you.
Is back to finding these, being open, finding the channels, and doing more of what matters. So if you do find a slip-seam channel, really push on that door. I want to talk about, I said single mum in Camden right at the beginning.
My mum, yeah.
Yeah, your mum. Sorry, not you.
I'm glad I'm not, because I couldn't, yeah.
But I do sound a bit like Stephen Bartlett here, but like, tell me about your kind of childhood growing up. Like, how did you get from there to Suffolk to here in Richmond? Like, tell me about that story. What was that like growing up in Camden?
I suppose it's really different, so you don't massively spend a lot of time reflecting. But I have to say that the biggest thing for me, moving from proper urban city life to Suffolk, and we didn't just sort of go to Suffolk, we went to proper rural. Like so I had my mum had remarried by then, and I should say, bit of a shout out to my dad. My dad was very present and very much part of my life and upbringing and still is today. I'm very excited about being a grandpa, but my mum was on her own. They weren't together from when I was a baby, but that's a story for another day. But that contrast from going, like the biggest thing for me was I was almost ignorant to any kind of prejudice, having grown up in the city. When I went from a school, with plenty of diversity and, I had gay godparents and, whatever. I had absolutely no idea that there were people out there that had prejudices against people because of the colour of their skin. And I'm half Indian, by the way. So
Really?
Yeah.
That's
so so my dad's on my dad's side. So and I was always really proud of that heritage. I am really proud of that. And I just and as I say, and then the homophobia. So going then to a school that was very rural, very white, middle class kind of, these kids some of them, they hadn't seen, they hadn't been taught or seen or been exposed to anything like I had, and even just a streetwiseness, there was just none of it. And I found that really tough because I just couldn't, I guess I'd got guiding principles and values and this sort of openness to people, all people from all walks of life.
It's bad. There's a common theme here: openness.
Yeah. A real openness to people. Yeah, to every kind of iteration of a human being. I hadn't realised when we then moved to Suffolk, like, oh no, there's people that are really isolated in their thinking, and not necessarily because of their fault. I mean, that's why I call it ignorance. It's not necessarily born out of a prejudice. It's just that they don't know. They've not had that exposure. So that was really weird, and I think maybe has kind of fed into some of my determination to do things with an open mind and to kind of treat everybody equally and to make sure that everything is equal even down to our supply chain, right? To make sure that there's a real fairness and an equilibrium to everyone and to everything that we do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. No, it's interesting connecting the dots. I think you can only connect the dots looking back. I was writing about this the other day. So you go.
So that's the move, and then I'd say growing up with me and my mum against the world in a way, with a lot of love and support from godparents and obviously my dad, as I say, and my grandma and my aunt, and there was a huge amount of family. We were a very close family unit, the extended family. But my mum was a working mum. I went to nursery full time when I went from the age of probably about 9-10 months, which made me a very sociable little kid. I couldn't shut up. I'll never forget when I was at my aunt's. We were at my auntie's for dinner, and I must have been about 6, and they gave me the challenge that could I not speak until the clock got to the 5 past. I don't know if they would probably encourage that in parenting now, but it was like I was this very massive extrovert as a kid. But I was also inspired by this mum that had a big career and was bringing me up, and she's also gone on. She quit the law when I was about maybe 12, 13, and has become a very successful film producer.
Oh, sick.
As you do.
What films? Or like what kind of stuff does she produce?
Like British indie stuff. So she did Good Luck to You, Leo Grand, which was an amazing film with about it was like a sex positive film. So it was about a widow who'd never had an orgasm, and so she hired she hired a sex worker to a hotel room, and it's with Emma Thompson plays the widow, and she was absolutely outstanding in that. And yeah, lots of brilliant British films. So yeah, so she runs her own business, and she's
That's sick. How did she get? Like what? So she seems like there's a massive creative element coming from your mum.
Yeah.
And then what role did your dad have in the manifestation of everything you do?
My dad's a sort of more classic businessman. He, he's not run his own businesses. He's always worked in big corporate businesses, which is really fascinating because we often talk about, the challenges that he might have in a big corporate. And I'm like, oh God, why is it, that must be so frustrating because you're being sort of, all these layers and politics and the bureaucracy, which obviously I don't have. I mean, I have worked in corporate, so I know what he's dealing with. But he's just a bit more, I guess he's just gone a slightly more classical route. But, they weren't together. So I suppose he has, well, I guess my dad represents a sort of stability and a safeness in a lovely way. And I think there's a bit of me that does do that. I think I'm not risk averse at all, but there's always going to be a side of me that sense checks the risk, whereas mum might be a little bit more fast and loose. Yeah. So I might sit somewhere a little bit.
Yeah. So then you're growing up in Suffolk. What's I suppose we're kind of working back here, but do you go to uni? Like, what's the?
Yeah, I went to uni, studied business and marketing.
Yeah, same.
So
Basically, I've got no fucking idea what I'm doing.
Yeah, kind of. Although I started.
Well, that was for me at least. Sorry,
yeah, no. I started the process doing, I'm going to do English literature, because it felt. But then I was like, actually, do I like reading that much? I mean, I do like reading, but do I want to do that full time for the next 3 years? And then this course, I think we did were you at Brooks?
No.
Oh, okay.
I went to Bournemouth, dropped out, I went to Manchester.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course you're at Manchester. Who was it I was seeing the other day? Anyway.
Did you go to Brooks?
Yeah.
I went to loads of my mates went there.
Yeah, maybe that's why I've probably connected with people through you.
What's it? Is it the Fowley Road?
Cowley Road. Yeah. Lived on the Cowley Road.
Yeah, that's good fun.
It was great fun. Good fun, but probably unlike Manchester, everything closed down at like 2. I mean, you're always in bed by 3.
What's the halls?
Cheney,
the bacon sarnies in that place. They have, I still remember it's the some of the best. I'd go up there and they'd have this almost like a posh Subway.
In the sports bar?
Oh, yeah. And I'd just sit there and they do like this chicken, avocado, bacon, mayo, lettuce,
sounds
baguette. Which was, it does sound very good. Everyone's in Jack Wills and signet rings.
Yeah.
Bowling around.
Definitely one of those.
sorry,
Speaking of diversity. Bunch of rich kids. No. But and I absolutely loved it. I loved university. I've got some of my best friends out of that, and actually I have to say the course was good. Like I definitely use some of the things that I learned there in a matter of principle. I mean, nothing. You can sit in a lecture hall all you like. Nothing really prepares you until you actually go out into the world. And also those principles might apply in big corporate, but often don't apply in challenger brand world. Or, the reality is if you don't have a budget, you can't do all of those. You can't do, all the things that you might have been taught that make up a marketing mix, for example. But, uni was great. And then, came to London, worked at GSK as a sort of assistant brand manager. Then moved on to Sky, so as in Sky Television, but working in their online team. So that's when I I sort of came out of that more classic brand management and into more e-commerce, digital space, which at the time was very novel and forward-thinking, and now is just
ubiquitous.
Yeah. And then I moved to Canada.
Oh fuck! Whereabouts in Canada?
Vancouver.
Oh, nice. What's that place saying? I just met a load in Costa Rica. Like, basically, you know,
Oh yeah, they love Costa Rica.
We're basically just saying that we and my friend were saying that the media in America present Canadians as like the kind of the subpar, kind of super nice Canadian guys, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, I was like, they're all jokes. Like everyone we met who was Canadian is an absolute joker, and they're good fun.
Yeah.
And but they were saying they're from Halifax. Kenzie and Logan, who I kept calling Lorcan. No, I kept calling them Kelsey and Lorcan. But yeah, so tell me about Vancouver. What was that like?
It was awesome. Like it's a really entrepreneurial city. So you get a lot of startups, businesses there, a lot of creative people.
Is that their kind of San Francisco?
Exactly. It's like a slightly it's not San Francisco because it's not as techy as San Francisco either. Or used to,
but
when I was there.
Sort of more forward thinking.
But it's forward thinking. It's very, very creative. It's kind of, there's a real kind of spirit around creativity there. It's not. Sick. There's no kind of corporate. It feels very. What did your time? What were you doing in Vancouver? So I worked in advertising. So someone very early on, I think it was at GSK. Someone said to me, a great way to think about your career is, and it kind of goes again back to the openness thing, is to find, is to get the best breadth of experience you can early on, especially early on. So thinking about cross-functional experience. So whether that's, brand management, e-commerce, client servicing, sales, whatever, cross-market experience and cross-category experience. So, like, if you're hitting those three things, you'll go further, in principle, because obviously you're kind of understanding.
Brand management?
So cross-functional experience, so the function in which you're working in, get experience in different facets, try and get different experience in different functions.
Yeah.
Cross-category experience, i.e., I worked on toothpaste, now I work in chocolate, and cross-market experience. So go and work in a different market.
Okay,
Vancouver,
cool.
UK.
So if you could boil down the whole spirit of Vancouver, what is that kind of into one sentence? What would that be? Do you think?
For me, what it was.
For you, like, what did that give you as a place? And maybe whilst you think of that, maybe a slightly easier lift would be like, is there a specific story or experience when you were in Vancouver that kind of encapsulates the spirit before the sentence?
Maybe, but I just think the whole thing for me was, I suppose it gave me this beautiful independence. Like, I mean, it sounds a bit wanky, but because it was only mine, right? My move to Vancouver, I didn't go with anybody else. I went and actually moved in with a really close friend of mine who wasn't a super close friend at the time, but we became really close when I moved in with her. She was British too. But like moving abroad, even though it was the same, it wasn't like I was moving into a different language, I wasn't speaking a different language or anything like that. You have to, like, taking that leap of faith to move your whole life. And I did. I properly moved.
How long were you there for?
3 years. But it wasn't like, I'm moving and you have to take these things by as it comes. But, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anything. I didn't have a job. So I had to start again. I didn't even have, a friend of a friend very kindly lent me a mattress. But that was, and I had the clothes. But we had to sort of build our lives. And I think when I was in my early 20s. So it was a big adventure. And whilst it wasn't a massive industry market insofar as, I worked really hard and I did some really cool stuff with work, but work wasn't the only thing. And maybe this comes back to a question about how am I going to manage this baby and, becoming a mum and work and then running a business. the two things I know, because I proved it, don't have to live separately. They can all encompass. I have amazing friends that I worked with, but work never felt like a chore. Like, work was just part of my lifestyle. And it was just an amazing a place where you could just where it kind of felt like a place where you could really have it all in a way. But I was also of an age where I didn't have any responsibilities. I had no mortgage. I had no, I just had to pay my rent and my food and get on with it. But yeah, it was just this sort of, it was just mine. It was this place that was mine.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And I never feel, you don't feel like that about places. I don't feel like that about places here.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. I think there is something definitely in, that's why I'm going to Lisbon for a couple of, about a month, or maybe a bit more longer, next week, just to like, back to that slow productivity thing. So at the minute, I'm not drinking. Well, like obviously I've got 5 podcasts this week. Work, really fucking smash it. But then from next week, it's like work 3-4 hours a day, cruise, relax, go to the beach, and then come back and go again.
Isn't your supper club next week?
So
you go just afterwards.
I go the next morning.
Okay,
But it's jokes because Simona from Nojo lives in Lisbon.
Oh yeah.
So she flies back the next day, and then Paul from Mackenzie Jones has his mate who owns loads of brands in Lisbon coming over.
Oh,
so the next day, and he's going back the next day. So the next day there'll be 3 of us going to Lisbon
on the same flight, or just,
that's fine. Yeah, I know.
Who knows? TBC.
Yeah. I'll meet you in the Red Lion at Spoons.
Yeah.
And and have a sharpener. A final thing I want to kind of just talk about is Reni Redzepi. I found this book in your. It wasn't like I was here before you arrived, rummaging around. So Reni Redzepi for people listening, he owned or created Noma, which was the best restaurant in the world. Like how many? 5, 6, 7 years on the bounce.
Yeah, it's mad.
It's mad.
Closed now.
It's closed now. Yeah. But this book's called A Work in Progress, a journal. How did you get that book? Why did you talk to me about that book?
It was gifted to me, actually. I was on a podcast with it was the is it How to Play, Leandra. And it was about, I think it was called How to Play. Sorry, that's terrible of me, forgetting the full name of the podcast. But the principle of the podcast or the series that I was interviewed on was all about how you bring play into work. And so often do we forget that being playful actually leads to creativity, which can lead to great ideas, which can lead to great business ideas, which can lead to great brands, it can lead to great success, in principle. So, and she gifted me this book as a kind of, I suppose, marker of nothing's ever done. You're never finished when it comes to building something. And that isn't just isolated to businesses or brands. That's isolated probably to raising a child. You're never done raising.
Yeah, work. So how do you find play?
How do I?
Well, like how does he? Why does this book signify play? Because it's called A Work in Progress.
Well, I mean, that was kind of like it's about creativity and.
Is this actually like his journal?
Yeah.
This is sick.
But obviously, the whole thing about being a chef, his whole business was a work in progress of creativity. He never stopped refining, changing, testing boundaries, and that's really what Fatso is about. Like
No,
testing.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
I had a guy on last week, Will Storr, who's an author. Mm-hmm. 3 really interesting books: The Status Game, Selfie, How the West Became Self-Obsessed, and The Science of Storytelling. Fucking interesting guy. And he doesn't drink, but he talked about the role of status in architecture. So we were talking about the Blandemic and how all architecture looks the same now, and it's very boring. And he basically says that the reason that is because architects are not creating something for the consumer. They're creating something to impress other architects, thereby gaining status within that group.
Right.
Does that make sense? So it's like, instead of thinking like, oh, what does the public want? They'll be like, I want to win the architecture award.
Yeah.
So I'll create something that looks good in the small, high esteemed spheres of architects. So that's why all the buildings look the same. And what Will was saying is he was saying the same things happen with chefs. So the 3-star chefs are now creating food not for the consumer. They're creating something that will show off their fucking velouté thingy-majig. Which they would never call it that. But anyway, but he was saying, and he actually said he went to Noma and he couldn't stand it. It was his opinion. But it goes back to what I kind of wrap things up nicely. Is great art should divide?
Yeah.
So Will Storr's interpretation of it, maybe that I don't like that. The person at that shop may not like Fatso, but you need that tension. You need that tension and divide. How are you a work in progress? Would you say? What are you trying to work on?
Oh God, we're always trying to work on something. I mean, new lots of new ideas. I think something that's kind of quite interesting, and I think, did you say it the other day as well about entrepreneurs' boredom? What's that coin of that phrase where it's like
battle versus boredom?
No, but like when you're doing, not kind of not kind of scattergunning, not getting bored basically of what you're doing because you're on to the next thing. It's like.
When did I say that on the podcast?
I think so. Maybe it wasn't you, but I think maybe in a write-up. But it was about MPD. It was about MPD. Like just because you're not, just because you feel like that flavor's been launched for a year, and therefore it's boring and you need something new, doesn't mean that it's still not new to lots of other people.
Oh fuck yeah. There's loads of this, but yeah, it's founders get. Libby from Piper taught me this. It's founders think, oh my god, no one, like, we need to push the marmalade, the morning glory. We need a new version of that. It's like, well, yeah, you could, but most people don't even know about your digestive biscuit yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think it's about making sure more and more people know about it without having to necessarily always do other stuff. But what was the question again? Sorry, I've had a moment.
How are you working on yourself? How are you a work in progress? Like, what's some of the things you're trying to work on as you build your brand? Because I think
focusing on things that matter. As I said, I think it's a very much a guiding principle of our brand and our business, but it's not easy to live by always. It can be very easy to get stuck in the detail, or and it's a nerve-wracking thing running a business because, as I say, cash flow. If you don't have the cash flow, for example, you're buggered, or you've got issues of stock. You can get very locked into the business running of things, and then that can very quickly become a distraction to focusing on the creativity and the forward thinking and the setting the direction of what you want to do next, whether that be a product or whether that be a piece of communications or whatever. So I'm working on that. I'm always working on myself, to be honest, to be a better mentor, leader, to empower the team, to know when to step back and when to step in and all that sort of stuff.
Is there anything that you've learned in the last 18 months that have really kind of step changed that in terms of what I think you've learned recently that you think, fuck me, that was really useful? I think whilst you think on that, I just think to Tim Ferriss thing about state. He basically says this thing with dealing with like, if you're ever dealing with issues and stuff, is it state, story, strategy, and it works in that order. And so basically what happens is if you're in a bad state, you'll tell yourself a bad story. And this could be about like going through a breakup, or going through a bad business meeting, or, the person saying Fatso's a shit name. If you're in a bad state equals bad story equals bad strategy. And so what most people try and do is they try and focus on the strategy and the story And then actually what you need to do is just focus on the state. So what he says, I mean, it's quite strong, is before you're making a decision about something, go and do a half an hour run or go and jump in a cold plunge.
It's great advice.
And then you change your state. That changes the story. That changes the strategy. It's something I've been thinking a lot, especially with the slow productivity stuff, which is kind of one of my obsessions at the minute. Like, even today, before I'm going to rush into a massive block of work this afternoon, so I'm going to go on a walk. Yeah. Probably going to go to a fucking bookshop. There's a Waterstone in Richmond.
There is, yeah.
Yeah, mooch about there, get a coffee, change my state, and then go and do the thing. So I'm not as stressed. Yeah. So that's something I've been really thinking about a lot recently, is this state story strategy.
Yeah, it's great advice.
Is there anything that's been really, that you've learned that could really benefit me and listeners, I suppose?
I think I'm a very values-driven person, so I think staying true to those values and always reminding yourself of those values is just so important, because I think otherwise you can lose your way and you can get distracted by other things. I think also it goes really beautifully into your is it slow progress? That's what it's called.
Slow productivity.
Slow productivity. Sorry, not slow progress.
Yeah.
Slow productivity is, it's a bit like the tortoise and the hare. It's not a race.
Yeah.
And I think to your point about not taking, if you, and I talk to the team a lot about this, it's very easy to become reactive, especially when you're busy.
Yeah.
That's come up, or that problem's happened. I'm going to react. I'm going to be cross about it, and then I'm going to write this email because I'm annoyed, or no, we're going to have to change that, and and making snap decisions on the basis of one event that can, to your point, kind of change your state of mind, which then changes your whole response to the whole thing.
Yeah. Changes your story, changes your strategy.
Yeah. And I don't think I realised how easy. I don't know if it's in everybody, but it's so easy to be reactive. It's so easy for me. I mean, it's so easy to get into that state of just hamster wheeling, and that often comes with volume of work. Is that an
example of that?
Oh,
well, I suppose it's like
it's like anything. It's a little bit like I don't know. We've not thought about what we're. I mean, this is a very small example, but we've not thought about what we're gonna put. How our social media is going to look for the next week or the next month or whatever. And we've now got to force ourselves to think of something, and you might create a kind of series of random.
I'm the worst at that.
Random stuff, and you haven't necessarily thought about it. And in relation to your brand or what you want to say, there's nothing really underpinning it. So you're just kind of reacting because you forgot. It's a bit like you were saying, if you're kind of a bit disorganized and frenetic, and then you just end up doing something because you think that you should. Whereas actually it's okay, well, what's going to really happen if we take a minute and we don't post for a couple of days, but actually we think about what it is that we want to say and what we want to do, and we do something cool and fun, and because that's the whole point of the brand, doing things. So I think, I mean, I don't know if that's
it's slow. Linking to all of this together is like slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Yeah.
That's the Tim Ferriss thing. I've been listening to him loads recently. But this Cal Newport thing, I think, to wrap this all up, is it's like, if you take a step back, you do more what matters. Mm-hmm. It's not about doing less work. It's about doing more of the things that are important. So that's the first kind of thing. Second thing, what Cal Newport says in Slow Productivity is ask yourself the questions like, what do I really want to be the highest quality of things I do? Mm-hmm. When you do that, you'll get that question alone will blow away all the fucking superfluous bollocks that's on your to-do list, essentially. Mm-hmm. And I think, and then that's doing those two things, like the slow is smooth, smooth is fast, where do I want to focus on quality? That takes you somewhere, there's no kind of utopia or sort of panacea with this, but there's into that state of less reactivity. Because I think ultimately what reactivity comes from is by trying to do more without the matters. More without the matters is fucking chaos.
Yeah,
Do you know
it's
what I
just
mean?
more of, not, as you say, superfluous. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not productive. It's not productive. So I think taking those moments, whether it's a walk or a run. I mean, I always like doing like one-to-one meetings and stuff on a walk. We don't just sort of sit and stare at each other and go through a to-do list.
Well, that's one thing I'm thinking of doing, which I'm nabbing, is doing podcasts on the walk.
Love it.
Not like
Great,
with
isn't it?
this, but but yeah, also like my natural thing is the high octane. So this is like next week I may be back to that. But Ella, I've absolutely loved this.
Me too.
It's
Thank
been just so nice to kind of. I think what you've created is fucking sick. I really think it's genuinely different. The name's bold, it's courageous, it's a brand I'm incredibly excited about. But also I think there is within all of this like a deeper kind of meaning in terms of doing more of what matters is quite profound. It's very profound, in fact. So yeah, thanks for a lovely start to a sunny morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Great to be here.